Jackson Hale, billionaire founder and CEO of Hale Global Foods, a multinational chain stretching across New York, London, Dubai, and Silicon Valley, stepped into one of his own urban flagship stores wearing a simple employee uniform. No cameras, no entourage, just a cap pulled low and a corporate ID that no one looked at twice. He ordered a small lunch, testing the system with an internal executive payment card that could override entire financial departments. It was declined. The cashier, a young woman named Lisa Monroe, froze, her fingers trembling. Behind her, Mark Dawson, the shift supervisor, watched silently, arms folded like a security barricade. The air in the store held a strange weight. Quiet, suffocating, corporate fear disguised as routine service. Jackson paid in cash and sat at a far booth where he could observe everything. He watched the staff like a boardroom analyst scanning a failing division. No laughter, no team harmony, only mechanical movement and the invisible pressure that comes from leadership weaponized against its own people. Lisa triple-checked every order, her smile a locked mask. When a new hire dropped a cup, Mark didn't shout. He simply delivered a threat that sucked all the oxygen from the room. If you can't handle this, don't show up tomorrow. The boy shrank as if punished for existing. Jackson had seen toxic management before, but not like this. This wasn't incompetence. It was design. When he checked the shift logs posted near the back hallway, he realized the listed supervisor wasn't Lisa or Mark. Someone had erased names, altered numbers, and overridden the system. That night, Jackson cross-checked internal analytics. Revenue loss across the region. Wage discrepancies. Manual overrides. 7 stores under the same regional director. Ronald Vickers, an executive known for efficiency, loyalty, and absolute silence. A chill ran through Jackson. This wasn't a broken store. It was a controlled collapse, engineered from the inside. And the man responsible was sitting high enough in the corporate tower to hide it. The deeper Jackson went undercover, the more he saw the human cost of the corruption. Employees moved like ghosts, fast, efficient, terrified. They weren't serving customers. They were surviving supervisors. He watched as Lisa worked an 8-hour shift, then discovered her payroll reflected only 5. Her deposit was short again, just enough to be invisible, not enough to be accidental. She kept screenshots on her phone, not because she expected justice, but because trauma teaches people to collect proof of their own existence. When Jackson finally approached her privately, she didn't speak. She didn't need to. Her trembling hands told a story of 1,000 silenced objections. Later, in the alley behind the store, a calm, sturdy prep cook named Alex Carter handed Jackson a USB drive with security footage. Mark pocketing cash after hours, unlogged, unchecked. Alex inhaled the cold night air. People talk, they disappear from a schedule. He wasn't afraid for himself. He was afraid for the others. The scale of the fraud widened. So did the resistance. Jackson contacted David Langley, his CFO, requesting a full forensic financial review. Then he reached out to Cassandra Reed, a former payroll auditor who had been quietly terminated after flagging similar abuses a year earlier. They met in a dim cafe in Lower Manhattan, where she slid across an envelope containing a damning directive from Vickers. Cut wages. Reduce hours. If they object, replace them. Jackson's heart cracked, not just with anger, but guilt. For years, Hale Global Foods had exploded into a billion-dollar empire. Investors praised him. Markets worshipped him. But while he was giving keynote speeches in Davos and Silicon Valley, people like Lisa and Alex were being crushed under managers forged from the very corporate culture he built. He had sacrificed time with his family, missed years of his son Ethan's childhood, believing the company was his legacy. But now he saw it clearly. The company wasn't his legacy. The people were, and they were bleeding while he'd been looking the other way. When Jackson finally confronted Ronald Vickers in the executive offices of the company's New York headquarters, Vickers stood with the calm arrogance of a man who had survived 1,000 corporate storms. He smirked as Jackson placed a folder of evidence on the polished glass desk. "You've been digging where CEOs typically don't dig," Vickers said smoothly. "This company runs on discipline and silence. That's how we win in global markets. Jackson didn't flinch. Discipline isn't theft. Silence isn't leadership. You've weaponized fear. Vickers leaned forward, voice dropping. You built this empire. I kept it profitable. And if you tear this down, you won't survive what comes next, politically or publicly. It wasn't a threat. It was a corporate declaration of war. Jackson walked out of that office, knowing he had crossed a line that no CEO returns from. But he crossed it anyway. That night, he assembled everything: video proof, wage records, altered logs, employee testimonies, and prepared a press release. Before sending it, he recorded one final message, his voice steady but scarred. If this message reaches the public without me present, it is because I chose truth over safety, and truth matters more than my position. At dawn, the story broke across every major financial network. Regional Director Ronald Vickers accused of coordinated wage theft and employee intimidation. Images of Lisa's tear-stained face flooded the news cycle. Employee stories spread like wildfire across social media. We serve food, but we work under fear. Silence felt safer than speaking. Maybe now, someone finally sees us. Shareholders panicked. Reporters swarmed corporate offices. Employees across the nation began sharing their own experiences. The quiet kitchen in Houston had sparked a global reckoning. And suddenly, the billionaire CEO wasn't the villain. He was the whistleblower in his own empire. In the days that followed, Jackson stood before cameras with a steady voice, stripped of the rehearsed corporate polish. To every employee who suffered because I didn't see what was happening, he said, "I'm sorry. And I will not allow this company to be rebuilt on fear." It wasn't strategy. It was confession. Vickers was suspended pending investigation. Mark was removed immediately. Auditors swarmed the affected branches. Lawsuits formed. Investors demanded restructuring. Employees, once silent, started speaking, sharing, healing. Inside the Houston branch, Lisa stood at the front of a packed training room wearing a new badge, assistant manager. Alex taught leadership techniques rooted in dignity, not intimidation. Their presentation was titled, "Leading Without Fear." Across the country, the atmosphere inside Hale global food stores changed. Laughter returned. Eye contact returned. Humanity returned. Later, Jackson visited the same Houston branch with his son Ethan. The boy looked around with fresh excitement. "Dad," he said softly, "today I want to start by cleaning tables." Jackson felt a warmth he hadn't felt in years. That's the best place to start. He watched his son wiping surfaces with pride. No fear, no pressure, just honesty. The restaurant buzzed with life. Employees smiled. Customers chatted. The place felt like a home, not a battleground. Jackson sat in the corner booth where the story had begun. He looked around and whispered, "This company was never mine. It belongs to the people who kept it alive when leadership forgot them." Before leaving, he spoke quietly into a camera, recording a documentary on corporate reform. If you've ever worked under fear, leave a single dot below this story. Because real change starts with the ones who know the feeling. He rose, exhaled, and walked toward a future rebuilt from the ground up. Not by profit margins, but by the courage of ordinary people. Finally heard. And so, the empire he almost lost in silence was rebuilt in truth. His legacy wasn't the brand. It was the people.